I'm showing if you live on that yet. You checking your phone?
Okay. I'm showing mine right now.
Okay.
You on the bot page?
Yeah, we're on the bot. We good. All right, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
All right, before we get started with this lesson, we want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect that's out here laboring in all truth and sincerity. To you, we say shalom.
Shalom.
All right, brothers from Great Millstone, Charlotte, coming back with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, HaKodash. And pretty much in this lesson, me and the brother Yawam just got through watching the documentary going into FreakNik. It's on Hulu. And this just goes to show you the debauchery, and the witchcraft and wickedness that Jake was partaking in during this period of time in so-called Black history. All right, so we got a couple of videos we want to play, and then we're gonna go into some articles and some scriptures. So, without further ado, let's get these videos out the way.
I don't know. We might get. Did y'all see Hulu is about to release a documentary about 94 FreakNik? Yes. 1994 FreakNik. Yes. They are about to release a documentary. So, I've been to several FreakNiks. 94 was one that I attended. So I'm just praying that Jesus be a fence. I'm praying that Jesus just be a big, tall, privacy fence. That's my prayer. This Easter, this Good Friday. So, I want to say this though. I will say this: like when they would bring out those video cameras and start recording, I immediately remove myself from the that situation. I never ever was okay with being recorded out there. So hopefully that worked to my benefit, but you never know. So the only thing I got is if you see your girl in a documentary, at least I'm fully clothed. At least all my clothes is on. That's all I got. That's the best I got. But yeah, y'all, they about to put our business out in the street. Some of us might be on TV. So get your parental controls together. And I don't know, y'all. I don't know.
Listen, that one hurt. That's funny. All right. We get this next video and then we'll go ahead and get started. So All right, you got it, bro.
Which that essentially, like they mentioned in the video, was they said it was a gateway to so-called black culture. You know, that's pretty much nigga culture. So, could we start with Second Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 11? Because pretty much, you know, Esau does his research, you know, and he understood that Jake in those times they really subscribed to the culture, because really that's Grecian culture, you know. That's pretty much the culture that Esau gave to Jake, you know, because Esau had his hand to play in the whole FreakNik and the naming of the city of Atlanta, because that's essentially where it originated, and then also the Olympics. All this stuff goes back to Greece.
That's right. This is Second Maccabees chapter 4, verse 11. And the royal privileges granted a special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Epiolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amenity and aid, and took away and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself.
Going into the gymnasiums, you know, gymnos goes into the Greek word naked. You know, you also got gymnastics, pretty much to where they, again, going into gymnos, where they pretty much do flips, you know, naked.
It says, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat.
Right, because in our customs, you know, in our law, you know, we're to keep our head exposed, you know, because that shows our connection with the Lord, you know. But by making them Jake wear a hat, you know, that was off. You know, you also have, you know, guys now that wear hats, prophesy hats, you know.
Right, because you know what this is going into was the normalization of the Hellenization that our people was, you know, going through, which is the pretty much going away from our customs and accepting the Grecian way of living. Because back then, as the brothers going into, it were certain things that we saw the Edomites doing, the Grecians, all right, doing, such as, you know, walking around, you know, showing their privy parts, you know, wearing hats, you know, even to the point to where you had, you know, in our law, we had the law of circumcision. You had Jake that was literally sewing their foreskins back on to their rod, because they wanted, you know, to feel accepted by these damn heathen, man. All right. It says, now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of hedonish manners, though the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest.
Right, and it says, now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners. So that was pretty much where Hellenization was at its precipice or its peak. You know, same thing we see now. You know, that's the FreakNik served as essentially Hellenization 2.0, that Westernization. You know, to where they can bring those customs and those manners over to the United States. Because again, going back to how Esau is a cunning hunter, you know, the scriptures say that you know, he does his research. He's diligent. You know, so he understood that worked then. So if he could take them same names, you know, the city of Atlanta, you know, the city of Memphis, them same names, if he could put it over here, you know, he understands that, hey, he can have that same playbook, you know.
Right, because it's the same spirits that's coming back. You know, if I can get this real quick, this is Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that have been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So we know spirits are reincarnated. So the same Jake that was back in the time of the ancient Greeks doing these hedonistic customs, these Jakes are back here in America doing these same hedonistic customs, man. Because the same thing as we was watching this documentary, we saw how FreakNik basically, you know, was brought in and how it was cultivated to become a part of the custom of Jake through so-called black culture, which, by the way, was a manifestation by the Edomites, you know, because when you go into the origins of it, as you watch the documentary, FreakNik pretty much, you know, derived from college students pretty much going on spring break to, you know, pretty much be able to get up with each other. And we know the activities that take place in colleges, man, because colleges is nothing more than a freak fest where these students that they pretty much use that all that time in these colleges to pretty much freak off with each other. You know, it's like an extended time of freedom from high school, and you have the freedom to do whatever your heart desires, man. And that's ultimately what Freaknik was on a wider scale, but it had to develop into that because when you go into how it began as these different college students going and making a time to where they was able to pretty much fellowship, as a community, and then as the years went by and became more famous, more Jake began to come from all over the country, and it eventually degraded into the freak show that we know and is famous for, and where you have people pretty much degrading themselves, being all type of sluts, whores, freaks, weirdos. That's where it came to, because that was a time of complete lawlessness, like we just read in the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 4. I'm gonna read it again. 13. It says, "Now such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of hedonistic manners." Because when you look at what goes on in college, you have rampant homoism, rampant orgies, all type of freakism, and that's all Freaknik became as the years went by, man. So it says, "So the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest," because an example of what that wicked nigga Jason did, as far as bringing in a custom such as the hats, but it went beyond just the hat thing. It went to the whole thing of the bypassing, keeping the laws and assimilating into the wickedness that goes against the law, man. And that's what he opened the door to, and it degraded all the way up to what we saw in this documentary, which is complete lewdness, man. Yeah, so
Can we go to verse 15?
yeah, it says, you want to skip 14?
Oh no, 14 and 15.
Fine. It says that the priest had no courage to serve anymore at the altar.
And pretty much to what you going into, Jason pretty much made it to where they didn't want to serve at the altar anymore. They pretty much wanted to go and to serve the way of the Grecians.
But despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise after the game of discus called them forth.
So pretty much the discus, pretty much a track and field event, pretty much going into how Jake just wanted to live after the Greekish fashions. Same as now, Jake is into basketball, Jake is into football, baseball, boxing, wrestling. They dedicate their lives to this madness,
Not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all.
Right, and that's pretty much going into how they, again, lived after the ways of the heathen. I got a precept. This is Shawapat, Judges 2 and 17. It says, "And yet they would not hearken unto their judges, but they went a whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked." So they turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not so. So pretty much, those that followed those ways, they came back in the regenerations, and they followed the ways of the Greeks. At the same time, 1990, the 1990s, same in that time as well. But being in the 1990s, that was like a catalyst for what we see today. Where the woman is compassing the man. The nymphoism. Roughly paraphrasing. And pretty much the abominable acts that we see nowadays.
Yeah, freakism. Because the whole idea of where Freaknik originated from, you had the ones that came up with the idea, which seemed at the time that it was a sincere, effort to bring unity amongst the Black community. They at the time back in the early 90s, that word freak wasn't, derived as a term of nastiness, lewdness. It was actually, well looked upon word. it was, back in the early '90s, late '80s. That was a theme against amongst like different songs that was deemed as something good. So they took the term freak and took the word picnic. That's how it started. It originally started as picnics. But then they found out later on throughout the years what picnic actually went back to. So they wanted to bring the words together. So FreakNik was birthed, which led to the title of that thing eventually growing to where it became known for its nastiness, man. And as you watch the years go, you see how it transformed from a so-called sincere thing to this wickedness that we see and know what it's about now.
Right. And it's not a coincidence that Esau put it in the city of Atlanta. You see, and the scriptures say that I'm going to get this real fast. The scriptures say that he pretty much calls places after his own name. This is the Holyum Psalms 49 and verse 11. And it says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever. They feel like they're going to be in rulership forever. And it says, in their dwelling place until all generations. They call their lands after their own names, which the name Atlanta goes back to. It was a so-called deity under the name of Atalanta, which I want to get some edification on that. It says the myth of Atalanta, which Atlanta derives from that name, and it says ancient Greek mythology. It says there were gods and goddesses who ruled all over existence with almost absolute power. I'm gonna skip down, and it says It says, according to Greek mythology, she was born in Arcadia, a region of Greece, in the southern part of the Peloponnese Peninsula. As an infant, Atalanta was abandoned by her father, left to die in the woods, presumably because he wanted a son. She was saved and suckled by a she-bear who protected her until she was found by a group of hunters. These hunters raised Atalanta. She soon learned to hunt like a bear and became a skilled huntress. She grew up fending for herself, hated the idea of marriage, and didn't really care for men in general. And that's essentially the spirit. Yeah, that's the spirit that was pushed in the 90s, and we see where that led to nowadays, because it said that she didn't care for marriage, or she hated marriage, and she didn't really care for men in general. So the women in the FreakNik, they pretty much was getting passed around, and that's how these women live nowadays. For the most part, they're getting passed around. You know,
it's a very debaucherous spirit that was pushed amongst all that, because as we know, the Queen of Heaven worship. You got the spirit of Dionysus that was running rampant throughout these different times, because as we know, we had a lot of drug use, alcohol, different spirits that was taking place, during these events, and it led to a lot of wickedness being brought forth, because as I mentioned, when you go back into the custom of the Greeks, as we just read in the book of Second Maccabees, that was the Hellenizing of the Israelites. Now, for edification's sake, we go into the word Hellenist to show you that when you read in the New Testament and it constantly speaks of the Greeks, it's not speaking of so-called white people, because Jake was the so-called Greeks that it goes into. When you look up that word Greek in the New Testament, it's speaking on Israelites that adopted Greekish customs. So just real, quick, and this is a Hellenist from the Zonder and Bible Compact Dictionary. It says Jews who made Greek their tongue, and with it often adopted Greek ideas and practices. And when you watch this documentary, the main participators at first were they that was in these colleges, most notably HBCUs, and and Greek fraternities, sororities, and a lot of the customs that take place during these Greek fraternities and sororities is acts such as orgies and all type of debaucheries and lewdness, man. Passing women around each other. So FreakNik was nothing more than Esau allowing these people to come together and pretty much do because that really was like a ritual when you really look at it. So that was just a big nasty ritual that just continued to grow. And then when you get later on in the documentary, it goes into, it was what, 96 when the Olympics came?
Yeah, 1996.
Yeah, 1996, to where they wanted, FreakNik had become such a nationwide household name, to where he saw the opportunity of how to truly profit off of that by bringing the 1996 Olympics to Atlanta, and he was able to make billions of dollars off of that, because he knew the allure that Atlanta had been able to bring in because of FreakNik. All right, I had a precept to add to that. So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 10, or it's like chapter 12, verse 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Thou shalt be unto him as if thou had wiped a looking glass, and shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away." And the reason why I brought that out was because Esau, he already knew what Jake was getting into during FreakNik, man. And so as the years began to go by, he saw the allure that it was bringing, because you had people literally coming from all sides of America, literally driving. Go ahead.
Shit, Jake was coming from Chicago, New York, Ohio, but then also, you had outcasts around that time as well. So you had people from all over the world, coming to this place. So Esau pretty much benefited off of what Jake had going on, So Esau saw he could get his hand into the pot, So he started pushing forth his enterprise, going into having the Olympics. The city was named Atlanta, and then also what else? Going into the FreakNik, because pretty much that pushed forth a spirit of it was what do you call it, nymphomania, to where it's overindulgence in sexual activity, debaucherous acts, out in public, and that's what was going on in Greece.
Yeah, another reason why too, because as we know, Atlanta was a very pro-black, ran, society, because you had, like it was talking about, black mayors, it was black everything, man. So as the fucking, culture vulture that we know this devil to be, he saw the perfect opportunity to fly down and partake and take that revenue unto himself, and as it was going into, okay, I'm gonna jump down to verse 16. It says, "An enemy speaking sweetly with his lips." Sirach 12 and 16. "An enemy speaking sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood." All right, because we know at the end of the day, he allowed that to transpire to what it became. But then, as he saw the Olympics was taking place there, that's when FreakNik began to die down, because Esau, he wouldn't let Jake pretty much operate on how they was begin to operate, because he saw it was becoming a problem. All right, you had women getting raped, you had a lot of pretty much robbery, more like it going on, different problems that was going to bring a risk to his money being made from all the people that was coming for the Olympics. So now he had to rain on Jake's parade, man.
Right. Pretty much used them for his own benefit.
Exactly.
Can we get? Well, I get it. It says Bon Sirach, chapter 13. Bon Sirach 13 and verse 3, and it says, "The rich man hath done no wrong," or Sirach, "The rich man hath done wrong, and yet he threateneth withal." It says the poor is wronged, and he must entreat also. And the poor represents Jake.
Yep.
And it says, "If thou be for his profit, he will use thee. But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee." Which it says, if thou be for his profit. That event pretty much gave Esau, a means to bring forth revenue to Atlanta. Pretty much as a means for to bring it to the Olympics, because that pretty much allowed for world trade. Because the Olympics, that's a global event. Right. And it says, "He will live with thee." So it says, "He will use thee, but if thou hast nothing, he will forsake thee," which around about like 99, he had no more use for Jason. He had to get rid of him.
Right, and if I could add too, Atlanta was booming up until that point when the Olympics came, but then after the Olympics left, like you said, around '99, the lore of Atlanta began to pretty much falter to where Esau no longer had use, for things like that to take place. So now you look at in today's time in 2024, if you go down to Atlanta, that place looks like a fucking cesspool compared to how because that was at one point in time in America known as like the down south black Mecca. We know New York was the Mecca for the for up north, but down south Atlanta was like the Mecca for for the man.
Right.
And after he pretty much milked Atlanta for what he used it for, which was the Olympics, it never pretty much got back up to the prestige that it had, man.
I got a precept. This is Yeshaya Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 14. It says, "The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit." So pretty much, there was a very perverse spirit going on, in Atlanta and throughout the whole country, and that wasn't, set up by coincidence, because that essentially allowed Esau to again, use him for his benefit,
So if I could add, because the reason why it became such a problem, because the shit that was pretty much being allowed to go down there, man, you had literally highways from the highway to the main street that it took to get to that part where they were, having the event. You had people, pretty much, fucking on top of the cars, on the side of the road. People just butt ass naked. What you saw on this documentary was actually light.
Yeah.
Because if they really used the real footage, because they had real footage, but if they really used the uncut, unedited version, that would have been like a flick almost, man. Because these women, and this is why at the end of the day, the one of the main reasons why this shit became a problem, and Esau saw he had to shut it down, because the fucking woman was complaining because they were getting manhandled. Because if I can give a quick, rundown of the timeline of how that shit went left, man. Because like I mentioned, when FreakNik first began, it began as a wholesome, picnic for, Jake to come together and fellowship with each other. But then after a while, we start seeing, everybody start to come down there. You had different rap, groups, rap artists were, making a name for themselves. So they used FreakNik as a platform to forward themselves. And then you had this fucking demon, Uncle Luke, who was, known for the party scene down in Florida, making that damn debaucherous ass, freak music. He brought his ass up to FreakNik, and that's when FreakNik became the nasty shit that we know it for, man. All right, bitches walking around with their ass out, titties out, fucking twerking, whatever you want to call it, just being a straight up whore. That's when FreakNik became the shit that we know what it was now. But when you go into the beginning, the origins of it, the grassroots origin of it, it was a wholesome thing, man. But that always happens when Jake, it gets together without order. This is why order is important, for things to run properly. We ain't gonna have no fucking FreakNik in the kingdom of heaven, man. When we get together as a people, it's gonna be on a righteous vibration, man. Today's time and here, since we were able to really be let loose in America, there was never anything that was truly righteous for us to really do, man. Because after a while, the shit always degrades to some bullshit, man. You got something?
Yeah. Cause pretty much the dude, you said his name was Uncle Luke.
Uncle Luke, yeah.
Yeah, so around about that time, they bought like a Deuce of Hazard. the little female that she had on like what they call the Daisy Dukes.
Yeah.
So they had the song the Daisy Duke song. So Eve started wearing those shorts. So this is Jeremiah 5:28. It says they are waxing fat, they shine, yet they overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. And pretty much the point was they overpass the deeds of the wicked, because that's ultimately what Esau was doing, wearing them little ass, because they don't have a law to follow after, you see. But our people, essentially, they take on the ways of the heathen, and they overpass the deeds of the wicked.
Yeah, because if I could add to your point, because prior to FreakNik really being a nationwide, a household name, Spring Break was most notable due to like down there in Miami, Florida, and different parts of Florida and other parts of the world or America, not the world, of America, where you had Edomite college students getting together and doing all the shit that we see in FreakNik. But FreakNik became such a fucking problem because it was Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau always villainizes Jake, man. But like they was talking about on this documentary, this the same things that these Edomite college students was doing. And they was doing way worse shit. Niggas down there snorting powder, snorting goddamn a coke line off a bitch ass cheek, having all type of orgies, doing all type of crazy shit. But it becomes a problem when Jake do it, which we ain't justifying none of these niggas, by the way. But we just saying the hypocrisy, because that's what it comes down to. The Lord said He was going to send us into a hypocritical nation, which we know at that point in time I was speaking to Jake. But now the hypocritical nation is America, because the very thing you demonize Jake for, you Edomites started doing it. Because who think we fucking learned this from, man? And then when you go into as far as the reason why Esau was demonizing it, because it was fucking his money up, man. Because if they were able to continue to profit off it like how they envisioned it, and still be able to get off what they wanted to, they would continue to allow Jake to destroy themselves, man. But all because, number one, it was to demonize us, because as we know, he's the accuser of our brother. And then number two, when it starts affecting his pockets, because everybody knew what FreakNik was known for. So when he brought the Olympics into town, they already had precautions already set. Like, look, we ain't gonna allow these niggas to goddamn block the streets off. We're not gonna allow these niggas to make the town look like some fucking shit that nobody wants to come to. So Esau let it be known off the rip, you niggas ain't about to continue to do this shit. So we're gonna put these precautions in place, as they did. They cut off all the major highway exits, and pretty much discouraged Jake from the years on down after the Olympics left from wanting to continue to do this, man. But like I said, using that nigga Uncle Luke as one of the the catalysts to bring forth the debauchery going forward. I just wanted to speak on a couple of scriptures with that, because these women were going completely crazy at both Jake, the men and women. But man, these women were going crazy with it. This is why the laws are set to where, can you get that where it says I not let the woman gather abroad? I think it's Sirach. Yeah, I think it's like Sirach 25 or 26. It's like the end of the verse.
Yeah, I got it right here. So yeah, it says this is Bond Sirach 25 and verse 25. It says, "Give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman liberty to gather abroad."
Yeah. And when you allow these bitches to have this freedom, like how they do, things like this is what takes place, man. Because like I said, the documentary was very PG off of what we know really happened. And like I said, me and this brother, we young. We weren't alive during the time. Well, we probably
pretty young.
We were babies. I'll say that. We were babies when this when FreakNik was really at its height. But at the same time, we understand that these women were able to have all the free reign to do whatever. And like I said, man, the titties, ass, pussy was being shown. They was fucking in the street. They were doing all type of crazy shit. And it got to the point to where years down the line, Jake heard about what was being done down there, so they was like, "Look, I'm gonna go down there and give me some box." And it came to the point where they said it was raping and all that shit going on. Because Jake knew what to expect when that was coming down there, man.
Right.
You know.
I got a scripture.
Go ahead.
Montserrat 26:8. It says, "A drunken woman and a gather abroad causeth great anger, and she would not cover her own shame." Which you had a lot of, literal drunken women, and also those that was pretty much traveling, gathering abroad, being places where they didn't really have any business going. It says causes great anger, and she will not cover her own shame. They was out there dressing scantily clad, pretty much appealing, to everyone that was out there. Verse 9, it says, "The whoredom of a woman may be known in her eye." Start over. It says, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and eyelids. If thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty. And essentially, like you said, Esau's the accuser of our brethren. So he pretty much uses as a catalyst to destroy the nation even further.
Right, which is why we understand the Lord set up provisions against the woman to make it to where she was not going to be a product of her own destruction. All right, and as we saw, pretty much, the timeline of how the woman eventually, quote unquote, became liberated, how she literally became, a problem to the Israelite nation as a whole, because we understand to destroy a nation, you got to go after the woman, all right, first. Like they had that quote to pretty much, if you want to, how's it worded? I don't even want to butcher. If I can get it. If you had something else, you can go get that real quick.
Again, this is First Maccabees chapter 1, and I'm sorry, verse 11. And it says, "In those days went there out Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised." Pretty much going into what you were saying earlier, Jake was actually sewing back on their foreskins to appeal to the likeness of the heathen. And it says, "Forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief." And that's essentially the point we at now. Jake is totally gone.
Yeah. So this is from Salahuddin Ayubabi, liberator of Jerusalem, 12th century CE. It says, if you want to destroy the nation without war, make adultery or nudity common among the young generation. And that's pretty much, what Esau did with women, because as once again, speaking on, Eve, as she was on her path to be liberated from the control of the man, college was one of the main avenues how they allowed that to happen, because college gave these men and women freedom to pretty much indulge in all these idolatrous actions, and that led forth to Jake accepting all these different ways that went outside of the scriptures, because as we know, early early times in America, Jake pretty much had standards. They had biblical principles that they stood upon. Nowadays, we don't hear that from Jake, especially with these women now, man. These women now don't give a fuck about no biblical standards when it comes about being shamefaced, dressed in modest apparel. That shit was nowhere to be seen in this documentary, man. And that's even worse now, because like how they said at the beginning versus the end, the end days of FreakNik. At the beginning part, women were actually, clothed, up all that, and then as time began to go by, FreakNik became more popular. What happened, man? Women started wearing less clothes. They became more provocative. Right. They became more, sexually liberated.
So they was pressing dudes.
Yes. Oh, since you want to say that, you had a the hypocrisy of this documentary. Like I said, as FreakNik began to die down because women were complaining about how unsafe it was for women. When you look at like, I think that was what 90. I want to say Uncle Luke came in what 93, 4,
94.
94. So around like 94, 5-ish. You had women in this documentary talking about, yeah, we ain't hearing no man talk about let us see some ass and titties. We want to see some meat. We want to see meat. So they were pressing men for meat.
Right.
But to see the goddamn print size and all that shit. So you see how when the shit don't turn out in their favor, that's when it's a problem. But whenever it's you can do whatever you want, do as thou will. Women have the this is why America got to be destroyed, because we're in the same situation now, but it's worse. Mm-hmm. It's way worse now, man. All right. Let me get this real quick. This is 1 Timothy 5:8. It reads, "But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth," because when this is for Israel altogether, but you can use this for the woman as as a means too. But when Israel is living completely to the flesh, spiritually they're dead, and which is why we see a lot of our people, they're gone.
I think it was 6.
What did I say? 7,
8.
It's like 1 Timothy 5:6. But she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. Right. So, like I was saying, without the law, statute, commandments, to guide you spiritually, you are essentially dead. Which is why we always, refer to Proverbs 21:16. You want it out of the way of understanding you're in the congregation of the dead. So, using this for the woman aspect of it too, because a woman without a God is pretty much destroyed. All right, and the man was set up as a hedge of protection for the woman, so that she, is taught the correct way. But when the man was removed from the picture, and when a man is not having his mind guided the right way from the scriptures, we see the byproduct of niggas just out here like beasts, man. And I got that too. This is Jude 1:10. It says, "But these speak evil of those things which they know not." And where they speak evil of, man, the scriptures. Because when they hear us condemning things such as, FreakNik, nigger / black culture, all the epitome of what makes black people black. They hear us speak negative on that, and they come against us for it, man, because they don't understand that that's everything. That's what we're not supposed to be like, man. Because we have a standard according to the scriptures on how we're supposed to move. It says, "But what they know naturally as brute beasts, and those things they corrupt themselves," because as you hear in this documentary, they glorified FreakNik because they feel like that's a epitome, stone or statue in black, history. That's something to be proud about when you look at that through spiritual lens. That's a disgrace to our people, man. Because these niggas were literally acting as brute beasts because, hey, women in a total carnal sense is them being naked, because that's how the scriptures describe, Adam and Eve when they found out that they sinned. They were naked, right? Mm-hmm. And so Eve, in her carnal state, wants to be what? Naked. That's why they walk around with no clothes on. They walk around showing their titties, their ass, their pussy, because that's them being in their natural state. They naturally want to be naked because they want men to look at them, Right. And men being in their natural state will see that, and being led by that little head is trying to fuck something. Right. And that's all Babylon promotes. And FreakNik was just one of many small cogs to a means to destroy Jake, man. Right.
I'm gonna get that real fast. This is Revelation chapter. This is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 8. It says, "In their dead bodies." It says, "In their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city." It says, "In their dead bodies shall lie in the city of that great city." All right, talking about Babylon. It says, "Which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified." And essentially, that's because Esau doesn't uphold what's written in the scriptures. He pushes what was in Sodom and Gomorrah. He pushes what was in Egypt. He pushes what was in Greece, Rome. in all these different kingdoms you see, because it's pretty much all these places out the water. All these places pretty much wrapped up into one big place. That's why it's called Babylon, Babel. You know, confusion of mixing. You know.
Yeah, because that very state of action, as FreakNik was being done, goes back to Grecian customs, such as the worship of Dionysus. Dionysus, when you go into it, was a Greek, idol that pretty much, pushed the spirit of mirth, drunkenness, lewdness. They had orgies. It was there, and that's what FreakNik was, man. So these, and then also too, like I said earlier, the Queen of Heaven, which is the worship of, comes with different names, Ashereth or Isis, Semiramis, that Queen of Heaven worship where the woman was pretty much, promoted as a sex symbol and to, pretty much worship the Queen of Heaven, man. You had to, freak off, man. So these things were nothing more than Grecian rituals that have been reincarnated in modern times, man. Which is why the brother went into the origin of Atlanta. That was a very timed, a process that Esau allowed to happen because he saw the benefit of allowing FreakNik to grow like that. Because if that really was an issue that Esau had a problem with, they would have nipped that shit in the bud early, But because as he began to see how profitable that would get down the road, he allowed FreakNik to develop to the height of his epitome, which was, like you said, 90, 92, 90, 93, 94 was like the height. 5, and then when 96 came and they brought the Olympics in, 96, it spelled the end and the downfall of FreakNik to where eventually a few years later, that was what, 98, 99?
99.
Where they pretty much, they outlawed FreakNik, man, and that was the end of that shit to where you had Jake in today's time, which was like, what, 2022, something like around that time. They're trying to revive that spirit, which once again shows that there's no new thing under the sun, man. All right. This American Babylonian way of thinking is all meant to destroy Jake, man. And this documentary was just an example of what Esau did to, further distance our people from our customs and destroy you, man. This is why Hosea 4:6 tells you, my people, they perish for a lack of knowledge, and because they rejected knowledge, Yahweh Shem Yahushua rejected them. Because when we come out and tell our people, FreakNik is nothing to be proud about. That's a abominable practice that Yahweh Shem Yahushua will be ashamed of. So you should be ashamed of it. And our people will get mad at us for saying that because in their eyes, they're looking like we're downplaying a black excellence. But first and foremost, man, fuck black people because we're not black. Black is the sign of wickedness. That means that you're void of light. You're dead. We're not black. We're not niggas. We are Hebrew Israelites. All right, the sons of God, Yasharallah, man. All right, the princes of the power. So we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard now that we know who we are as a people. We are not the design that Esau has given to us, man. Okay.
Kind of essentially, at a certain point, it was like, Jake was like, man, it's fucked up. Like we can't do this, can't do that. Essentially, Jake, they thinking that, Esau's taking away their funds, so to speak. But ultimately, Jake just needs the kingdom. This is Micah chapter 2 and verse 10. It says, "Arise yet and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you." Pretty much because Esau said, how he sets things up is to destroy Jake. And it says, even with the sword destruction, so arise ye and depart, essentially repent, come back to this truth. That's how we spiritually depart. We're not going to pack up bags, move to Africa or, wherever else.
Right.
We're going to depart spiritually, because this is not our rest. We're not going to find, you got your little, stuff you might do for so-called fun, but this is ultimately not where we're going to find rest. Our rest is going to be in the kingdom.
Right. Because the things that we take solace in, hobbies or whatnot that we got to, bide our time till we, get to the kingdom. It's not, degrading ourselves. It's not making us go off against our power, man. Yes, more.
Lie.
This is 2 Peter 3 and 13. Because like you said, Jake just needs the kingdom. Because when we fellowship, when we get together as a people in the kingdom, we ain't gonna be doing the bullshit that we saw with this documentary. Man. We're gonna be growing in righteousness. Man. So 2 Peter 3 and 13. Nevertheless, we according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness, man. All right. So when brothers and you sisters are able to, get up and fellowship, in the kingdom of heaven, it's going to be, a beautiful thing. And we got examples of how that, took place when we read about, the gatherings that we had in the ancient world. Like when you read, like with King David, for example, when King David, the example comes to my mind when he had came back from war, and they said they were when they partied, you had the men that was dancing with the men, or not dancing, was partying with the men. So men would party with the men, the women would party with the women, and it was a good time. And that where it was not no freak shit, and it wasn't no disorderly shit, man. Because a lot of times too, like I got that video I don't know if you watched it, where you had the dude Desi Banks. He was doing the video how it used to be back in the house parties, the garage parties back in the 2000s. Nigga walking the goddamn party and shit. You see bitches twerking on niggas and shit. And then, bitch you might have been talking to, might see you dancing with another girl. She come over trying to fight the bitch. Niggas see you talking to the girl he trying to get at.
Right.
We ain't gonna be none of that in the kingdom. We're gonna be at peace. We're gonna be able to party and have a good time together without some nigga shit happening. So that's why we look for a king that's gonna dwell in righteousness, because we ain't gonna have an evil eye towards our brother. We ain't gonna have no issues with the women of our nation. It's gonna be at peace. We're gonna have full peace in that time, man.
I appreciate it.
Got it.
This is 2nd Ezra chapter 8 and verse 52. It says, "For unto you is paradise open, the tree of life is planted, the time to come is prepared, plenteousness is made ready, a city is built." Because Jake doesn't have plenteousness on this side. Jake got to worry about work, bills, stress, everything. It says plenteousness is made ready, a city is built, and rest is allowed. Rest isn't allowed over here.
Hell no.
It says, yeah, perfect goodness and wisdom, So in the kingdom gonna be far out, we're gonna have everything provided for us,
That's right. Because like I said, we're gonna have a whole new vibration in the earth, because we're gonna be perfect in that day, man. All right. 1 Corinthians 15 goes into detail around like the 51st verse about how we're going to be changed, man. We're going to shed these old bodies, which is this flesh, which sin dwells in, and we're going to inherit a body of perfection, which the law, statutes, commandments are going to be in our inward part. All right, and we're gonna keep the laws perfect in that day. All right, so land back off that 2 Peter, where it says we look for a new city with dwell of righteousness. This is Revelation 21:1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And we know that the new heaven and new earth, not speaking on a whole new planet Earth, all right, it's going into a new rulership, a new age, in which the Israelites are going to be ruling, and we're going to rule the earth in righteousness, and all the heathen are going to have to partake in that righteousness by keeping the law, statutes, commandments of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. And the old way, the old world is going to pass away. Esau's way of ruling is going to be rooted out the earth, man. It says, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, meaning that the elect are going to come down after those ships and go out and set the world back aright by going up, rounding the heathen and their kings, all right, purging out the rebels and establishing the rulership and the standard of the kingdom of heaven on earth, man. It says, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is with men. All right, cut to you, all you women that want to, put yourself in the seat of a prophet. The Lord is dealing with men, and He will dwell with them, and they shall be His people, and God Himself shall be with them and be their power. And Yahweh Shem Yahushua shall wipe away all their tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, no sorrow, no crying, nor shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. So the Lord is going to give us a world to where we're going to completely be at rest. We're going to be at peace, to where we're going to have a righteous get together. We're going to have parties. We're going to have all that in the kingdom, which is why we're putting ourselves in the house of mourning right now. Or you got Israelites trying to establish that right now. This is not our time for that, which is why you read Micah 2:10. This is not our rest, man. Okay? So the time to part is going to be in the kingdom. All right? Right now is the time to work. Okay? Because we know that we're at a time to where the kingdom, all right, has to be established first, which we got to go through the straight gate to get to there. All right. And Jake doesn't want to go through the hard times, the straight gates. They want to try to bypass that by establishing a kingdom here, which the scriptures tell you two kingdoms can't coexist at the same time, man. So we're waiting for Yahweh Shem Yahushua to give us the kingdom of heaven. Well, we have to wait till America destroyed first, man. And then we'll be able to have the Israelite parties that you niggas want so bad, man. Okay?
Let me get this real fast. This is Second Ezra chapter 4 and 20. I'm gonna start from verse 27. It says, verse 26, it says, Then answered he me and said, the more thou searchest, the more thou shalt marvel, for the world hasteth fast to pass away, and cannot comprehend the things that are promised to the righteous in time to come. For this world is full of unrighteousness and infirmities. But as concerning the things whereof thou askest me, I will tell thee that for the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. So this present world, this present lifestyle, how Esau is running this pretty much this rulership, it has to be done away with before we can get the kingdom. You see, but Jake 2/3, they're subscribe, they hold fast to the ways of Esau, Edom. You see, so they can't see that. You see, but they're gonna pass, they're gonna die on this side and then come back in the kingdom. You know,
about earlier in Jude, how our people speak evil of the good thing, roughly paraphrasing, because they're in a beast-like state. Because Esau has trained them, and he trained all of us, honestly, on how to please the flesh, and living in debauchery and lewdness and wickedness is pleasing to this flesh, man. But we're in a time now to where we are being taught the correct way of how to put off the flesh, man. Denying ourselves, man. All right. And so, like I said, we're putting this off so that we can, be able to do these things in the kingdom, man, where we're going to be able to, metaphorically let our hair down and really, let loose. All right. But right now, it's not the time for that. Can we close with Ecclesiastes 3? Because Jake was trying to establish a rest here. FreakNik was a form of trying to make a rest here, man. And that's why that shit got shut down, because this is not our rest, man.
Verse 1.
Yeah, you can read down to where it says time for war and all that, time for death and all that. Just read down until we get to that part.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. It says a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away.
Right. And, saying all this because Jake don't know the time that we in, man. Jake think we're in a time to where it's party bullshit. Live your life to the fullest. You're living your best life. You can pretty much make your life as best as you can here when this place is about to go, left all the way. So far so that 2 Peter 3 tells you that all things here will be dissolved. So we're not in a time to try to make the best of a shitty situation. We've been tried that, and it failed. Because Esau is always going to be used, because according to Psalm 17 and 13, it says that the Most High uses Esau as his sword to punish us. So Esau will always reign verbally and physically on your parade. Okay? Let you know that, nigga, this is not your rest. which is why FreakNik, along with all the other shit that Jake made popular, it came and went. Because this is not our time to be at rest, man. This is our captivity, and the Lord will constantly remind you that, Jake. But we're at a point now to where judgment is about to come out to show you, because you don't want to hear the warnings, man. Anymore.
Verse 7 says, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace.
Right. We're in a time of war, a time for us to speak up, because the time for us to speak is about to come to an end. We're warning you. We've been pleading with our people for years, starting with the elders and apostles and bishops, for our people to take their spirits out this place, man. But for the good bulk of our people, 2/3 to be more specific, they love it here and they don't want to see themselves leave here, so they're going to die here. Which is why, for you brothers and you sisters, that sincerely believe, man, continue to get right with Yahweh Shem Yahushua and repent. This documentary was a good, showing to show how our people get comfortable in wickedness, man. And we can't allow ourselves to be in that same state of mind. All right, because even in the truth, you got Jake in that mindset of this documentary, man. It may not be to the extreme of this, but the sentiments stayed the same. All right, Ecclesiastes 7 tells you that the wise are in the house of mourning and the fools are in the house of feasting, man. All right, which house are you in? And I'll leave you with that question. Anything else? So with that, Lord willing, we're going to end this lesson out. We hope it was edifying. We want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Hakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation until the elect. Until next time, we say shalom.
Shalom.